to Either Side of Neil. I'm Christy.
And I'm Ben, and today we're talking about my favourite city in the world. That's right, we're turning the spotlight on Adelaide. We're in the middle of the Fringe Festival right now. It's all happening. The Adelaide Festival kicks off in a couple of days on the 3rd of March. It's summer, or maybe for a few more days, so there's plenty of sunshine, and it is a great time to be in Adelaide. How you going, Christy?
I'm really good, Ben. How are you?
Yeah, fantastic.
That's good. It's good to see you, as always. But that's right, Ben. For those who may not be familiar with the festival, let me give you a quick summary because it is huge.
It is.
The Adelaide Fringe is the largest arts festival in the Southern Hemisphere, lasting for 31 days and nights and taking place across South Australia. So it's not just in one spot.
No.
And the festival offers a diverse range of events, including cabaret, theatre, comedy, circus music, visual arts, and also lots of workshops. The festival is open to audiences of all ages and backgrounds, and the diverse array of artists and venues reflects the festival's inclusive ethos. So the Adelaide Fringe is known as the People's Festival.
Absolutely, and that's what it is. I mean, they had the Adelaide Festival, which is kind of like an invitation-only, very highbrow kind of thing, and the Adelaide Fringe started as a rebellion to the Adelaide Festival, which is why they're on at the same time. And, you know, the Adelaide Fringe there's no limits on how many events, how many venues, which is why it's just, there's like over 1,000 types of 1,000 events each year. It's just massive because there's no limit on it.
Right.
And that's why it happens around the same time. And it's the Fringe. So it's very cool. It's really, really cool. The city's just alive and buzzing at the moment. It's brilliant.
It certainly is, Ben.
Yeah, and we're going to be joined by a very special guest today, which we will be talking to shortly. But before we ask them to come out of our luxurious green room with the velvet curtains and the chaise lounge,
yes, M&Ms,
Christy,
and M&Ms
on tap. Christy, you need to tell us about your recent incredible tour de Adelaide.
I know.
You were here.
I was here. And if you haven't noticed, there's been lots of photos we've been sharing. But recently...
And our episode as well, of course.
Yeah, of course. Recently, I spent 5 lovely days in Adelaide and I jam-packed so much into those 5 days. Let me give you a little snapshot of everything that I did. So, of course, Rundle Street Mall, an obligatory photo in front of the large, giant steel balls down the mall.
Of course.
And somebody on social media pointed out to me, look into the reflection of the balls and you could see the back of us. And I hadn't even noticed that. It was really, really cool. So, down Rundle Street Mall, we went through the Adelaide Arcade and made a special trip into Hague's.
Yes.
Pigged out on fruit chocks and cinema mix and freckles, which I didn't get but they're my faves. We saw all the Politi signs down Hindley Street. That just when I actually saw that for the first time, because we've done an episode on this previously,
we did.
I was just like, check it out, Mum, there's a Politi sign. We went down to Semaphore Beach, which was absolutely stunning. I'd never been down there before, and Grange and
Henley.
Yeah. We
beautiful.
cruised all along there. My cousin lent us her car. It was absolutely fantastic. We called it the Little Meatball. But when we got down to Semaphore Beach, there was this Sandman panel van coffee cart. And if anyone's heading down that way, check it out. I can't remember the lady's name. Oh, it was Julie, the lady's name. And anyway, we managed to mind her coffee cart while she took a loo break. So that was fun.
You offered and she took you up on the offer.
Yeah. So anyway, classic. Anyway, we went to the Adelaide Oval and got up close and personal with that beautiful scoreboard. Took a tour through St. Peter's Cathedral in North Adelaide.
Did you? Wow.
Yeah, I did. And do you know what is the difference between a church and a cathedral?
No, I don't actually. No.
There is a difference. So if anyone knows, get back to us. But no, there is a difference, and I can't remember right now.
Wow, I thought you're buffering.
One's managed by a bishop and one's managed by a priest or something like that.
Wow. Okay. All right. Now I need to know the difference between a bishop and a priest. But this is a rabbit warren. I don't understand. That's okay.
But it was
we'll
great.
Find out.
It was a really great trip. I was travelling with my mum, and it's been a while since we've both been to Adelaide, and so it was good for her to reminisce and point out places of interest along the way. And
because
where
it
she
is
used
her
to live.
hometown. Absolutely.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
grew up here, of course.
So, yeah, plus we got to see lots of family. It was a really great time. And I got to see you, Ben, and we recorded, which,
Yes.
yeah, it was a fun episode. So it was
It was so
absolutely
much fun.
stunning. Can't wait to return. Won't leave it so long next time.
Oh yeah, please don't. And we have to have a rematch of the table tennis tournament that happened, which was full of events in our
It
back shed.
certainly was. It certainly was. It was great. I don't know. I got a bit aggressive. Sorry, Ben.
Oh look, that's okay. You get white line fever. I
I
understand.
do.
That's
And I
fine.
mean, it's really not fair when I'm playing your 8-year-old son.
Yeah, he's still got an egg on his forehead from the
Yeah.
table tennis ball hitting him in the head.
I really did get a bit like competitive, but I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm not going to be sorry because
Look,
apologise for the injury hurt to your son.
he's all right. The stitches are coming out next week.
But yeah, it's something that I can't help.
No, that's look. I don't think you were the only one. That's all
Yeah.
right. That's fine. It was all good fun, and it was so much fun having you here. We absolutely loved it, and we
It
can't
was
wait to have you back in Adelaide.
yay.
Christy, we're about to introduce our special guest, self-published author R.A. Wodecki, although we do have permission to call her Rosalie. But there's a funny story about how Rosalie and I actually met.
Tell me, Ben.
So I was at one of our local cafes, a fairly popular cafe on a park, and I was with my wife, and I kept hearing this person next to me talking about the challenges of publishing to her friend, and I'm sitting there in my head thinking, oh, this could be a good podcast interview, and just kept sort of waiting out. And as we left, we stood up to leave, I just went, hi, I've been listening to your conversation. Even my wife was like, what the hell are you doing just talking to random people? But I had been eavesdropping, and I introduced myself and asked Rosalie if she'd like to be on our show, and she kindly agreed. So this is what I'm doing now, just walking up to strangers randomly. And
I love it, Ben. I love your style. Who could say no?
of course, of course. Look, by day, R.A. Wodecki is an editor and online writer with a deep and unending love of plain English. By night, she releases her more fantastic, weird, and gothic words. And if she didn't, perhaps they would just creep out on their own. She lives with her loving husband and their cat, Franklin. I love that name. Believed to be surely a dragon. She owns her own sword. This is not the cat. This is actually Rosalie. How to build it. And she's also got under the castle or two, which when we start talking about her book, you'll understand why. So we are so pleased to welcome you to the show, Rosalie. Welcome to Either Side of Nil.
Thanks so much. And I can confirm Ben is definitely not a stalker. So
Good.
all on the table straight away. And actually, that's what wasn't weird, is that it wasn't weird. Because my friend Rebecca Douglas and we're extrovert introverts. So when we're together, couple of mouthy women talking words. So it's just not that weird that someone would want to come over and talk to us.
Yeah. That's what I felt. I felt comfortable. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have done it. Now, firstly, you own a sword and you know how to use it. Please
Yes.
tell us more.
No listener can see it, but they're just behind they're next to my bookcase. I've got 3 swords. Yeah, 3 swords. 1 steel and 2 synthetics.
Wow.
So before the pandemic, I actually joined a medieval sword fighting club and learned how to sword fight properly with a sword.
Oh my gosh! So is the metal steel one heavy? Has it actually got serious weight to it?
It's very heavy. It's really heavy, and it's not so much how heavy. And you actually get weights put on the synthetics so that you can get used to the weight of a steel. But it's because you're holding it out to the side of your head a long way out. And also doing a lot of moves above your head. It's just ridiculously good for building up strength.
Wow, this has look. Let's nix all the other questions, Ben. Let's talk about this. This is amazing, Rosalie.
It's so much fun. It's fun because there's swords. Yep. It's fun because there's a lot of you learn how to defend yourself if you feel unsafe. You learn the right reaction, which is not attack, like any self-defense course. You can't carry your sword on the bus. That's you do get a little bit of a look, but I have carried a shield on the bus, admittedly, so I've given it a good go, but you just get a good sense of yourself in space. yeah, it's just really good for your mental health, but also if you get bored lifting weights, you do not get bored carrying
Lifting
a
a
sword.
sword. Yeah,
No, I
okay.
can imagine.
Well, what
Yeah.
does Franklin think about the sword? Does he run for cover?
No, he's just used to it. It's not weird.
Yeah. Well,
Fantastic.
Rosalie, congratulations on publishing your novel. What an
Yeah.
achievement. Is this something you've wanted to do for a long time? And when did you think, hey, I'm going to write a book?
Oh, that's a pivotal moment. Hey, I'm going to write a book. I've always written stories. I think if you ask any author or writer, that is the answer. It's unusual if they haven't always wanted to tell stories, whether it's oral language or written language, or share stories, or just sit at home and write stories for your own sake. But I'd done a series of short writing courses, like you do with the writer's essay, and there was just a moment. I'd written I'd written a short ghost story
Mm-hmm.
and showed it to the lecturer, and he, unlike a lot of other film people, yeah, it's complicated, or it's this, or it's great, or maybe do this, he just went, you know what, you could write a full-fledged, full-blown, absolute hardcore ghost story, but a novel. And unusually, you're so full of self-doubt, but when he said that, I just went, yes, I could. You are so right.
It
And
must have been right then, yeah.
yeah, and it was just that instead of, oh, I couldn't possibly, or, oh, I don't even know where to start, it's that delicious feeling of, oh, I am going to have fun with this. I'm just going to sit here and let the room fill up with all the weird and creepy things that I know. And
Yeah.
then, because I love Gothic and Mary Shelley, it just turned into Gothic. So it started with the notion of a ghost story, but it's just that whole, I actually wanted to make something that was like a safe, scary read,
Okay.
or a cozy, scary read, even,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what I want to read. I don't want to have something where I put the book down and go, oh, that's, nope, no, I've got to get away, just shaking your head, running away. And yeah, so I did. But
Well
yeah.
Yeah,
done.
wow. That's actually a really good description. I have actually, the book's called The Castle, Diary of a Lost Woman, which I'm holding up, and we'll make sure we plug it, available on Amazon. And I'm a really slow reader, so I've got to confess, when these interviewers interview authors and they've just read the book and completely absorbed
Have
every
they
word.
though? I don't
Have
know.
they though? I don't know. I'm still making my way through it, but it is beautifully written and
Mm.
it's so descriptive and really clever. And I love the dialogue between the two women and
Thank you.
the spooky Igor, who I'm still not sure where that's going to go. So there's some
That's
really
good.
interesting, and it's getting a little bit spooky now. There's some spiritual spirits moving around, and it's really really good. Um, but without spoilers, of course, because
Mm-hmm.
don't ruin it
It's
for me.
tricky to,
Can you
yeah.
tell us? Can you tell us, our listeners, a little bit about the story and where it's set and what it's about?
Well, it's set in a castle. Big surprise. It is a very big castle. And it's about two women who want to go on an adventure. Really, there's one woman who wants to go on an adventure, and there's another woman who's her best friend and has gone on all of her adventures. And they get a mysterious email from someone in Romania who says, actually, you might have connections to this castle. Why don't you come and stay? And then it gets weird. So it's weird. It gets quite gothic. Let's just say gothic. It evokes so much sense. But yeah, think storm cards, think creepy, think misadventure and myths. Then you're in a happy place. So,
Yeah,
and but thematically, it's the idea of what we think is happening in a place, and Romania and places with big castles, it all evokes Dracula, and so that's what,
Yeah.
and you expect the people that live there to behave a certain way.
Mm.
And so I try and turn that upside down and play with that and play with people's expectations about it. So
yeah.
yeah.
And one thing I have noticed is that the women get themselves into some pretty dire situations,
Great.
but they're quite brave, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like they just push on, which I think is really cool as well. So
Yeah.
Do you
yeah, well,
visualize yourself with your best friend? Because my mind instantly went to, oh, yeah, that would be something that me and my best friend
Nice.
mate would do.
Actually, no, my mum did say that. And I said, no, it's nothing like
Okay.
that. So one of my best friends, who she thought it was, I said, she wouldn't let me go. I would have had to go on my own. I would have gone, definitely. yes, I'm coming, just leave, yep, and I would have found someone to go with me, but I'm not the main character. The women, I was just writing a scene, going back to that story of ghost stories. I just filled a room with all the elements, all of the clouds and all of the architecture and the tiles and the candles and the creepy feeling, and then they walked in. And they're the story. That's why it's their story, and that's what makes. I think that's why it makes a really good story. Is they did things I didn't expect them to do. They reacted in ways I didn't know they were going to react,
Oh,
and
wow.
that's the best feeling as a writer. Is when something's happening and they do something, and you go, "Well, that's inconvenient. I don't want the story to go there, but that's where it's going." So
Oh,
that's what's happening.
I love hearing about that process.
And there's some really
Rosalie,
good humour in there as well, which is
yeah.
Good.
fantastic. Yes.
That's good. Yeah.
So,
Sorry.
so when Ben gate crashed your coffee that day, by the way, what was your order? I'm a long black kind of girl. What are you?
I do like a long black, but no, I'm a flat white if it's good. If it's okay coffee, strong flat white.
Yeah, I've got
Or like I'm in Melbourne, there's something called a Melbourne Magic, which is like 3/4 milk rather than full milk. Oh,
yeah,
it's my
super,
perfect coffee.
super
Melbourne
strong.
Magic.
Super strong, but not too much milk. Perfect.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm the same. Hey,
Or
you
long
were
black
talking.
on a hot day.
Oh, sorry, I keep interrupting you. That's one of my
Sorry.
magical skills.
Yeah. Christy's
My magical
superpower.
skill is obsess over coffee and keep talking until you can't stop.
Got me on the same wave here. So when Ben gate crashed your coffee date that day, you were talking about some of the challenges of publishing independently. Can you tell us a bit about what this process is like, and would you do it again?
I would do it again, but I've learnt things. So
Mm.
yes, I would do it again. And I actually would potentially go straight to self-publishing because
Oh,
it's a product I have in my control now. I've got worldwide rights, so I can go in every market. What's harder to do is to get into bricks and mortar, who I love. That's where my first dollars go, is always to my local bricks and mortar shop. But they are through publishing houses. But getting into a publishing house, it's not, oh, why didn't you do that? It's, well, I did do that, and I followed all the submissions. You change your manuscript every time you submit your novel. You have to wait for an open door. So it's actually very hard even to get a rejection. So it's extraordinary hard work to get to the point that you can get in to get to a rejection.
Wow.
And then you might not get in. And I did get accepted by someone. I went to a pitch conference where you're assessed on your first 5 chapters. If you're accepted, you get to meet publishers direct. And I got a yes from one of them, and they changed their mind.
oh,
Which I just do, which you find out when you go through all that process, and you think, yeah, I probably would. And that's the thing. I now think I probably would go traditional again, but I wouldn't put most of my energy into it. I'd sort of do that as, yep, let's have a go, but target doing self-publishing again.
Mm.
Because the main reason is so I can go in traditional bookshops and my friends can just walk in locally and buy a hard copy, and they don't have to go through the big marketplace that's Amazon. But Amazon make technically difficult, but they do make it easy. There's no fee. You
right.
put the manuscript in and it's published.
Yeah.
You are then your own marketer, and that's probably when Ben was like, oh, hang on, maybe we could talk.
Yeah.
I'm not a great marketer. But there's agents out there too, so you could just go halfway, do self-publishing and get an agent.
Right.
But at the moment, I'm not in a rush. I can do this again in 3 years with the same book because it's mine.
Right. You've got total control. Love that.
Control.
Yeah.
You've gone through traditional publisher and you're not, Prince Harry. If the book's not doing that well, they might let it go, but not give you the rights back and just not push it for you. Whereas when I've got energy, I can have another drive and go, here's my book, still talking about it. Here's a new take on it. I've talked to these people about the art of, or I've gone to a castle, let's have some photos. Or I can bring out the next book and say, and don't forget, I've got this other book.
Yeah.
So,
It's still yours. It's still
Yeah.
yours. Yeah, that's interesting that you'd potentially lose control.
Yeah, I did not know that. I was unaware, and I imagine it's you're in control, but the financial side of thing of publishing it independently, you can figure out where you want to publish it online, like you said, Amazon. It doesn't cost you anything. So
ads cost you money, but you don't have to have the ads. So you can just. And I think I would say this for sure, if you were just doing a little community project, trying to raise the profile of especially if you think, a special interest type groups. If you would, there's a friend I'm talking to in the US who was wanting to do that. They've got a tiny little community project. They've got some photos. They don't have any budget. They just wanted to get it into production so they could have, 20 copies of a book.
Yep.
That is a way you can do that.
Yeah.
There's the technical barrier. It was really technical, difficult. And I'm an online writer, so I didn't think I'd find that part hard. But, yep, it's quite a trick to get through it. But if you can, it's great. It's a really great entryway. So, yep, definitely love publishers. Hello, please approach me. Yes, I'd love to talk to you. Not that silly, but also, actually, I can write things now, and now I know the process.
Yeah.
I could do a short story collection next.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I've got a backlog of short stories, so why not?
Yeah. My mum writes with a creative writing group in her U3A group, and each year they publish their short stories in a book, and they self-publish themselves. So they just get 20, 30 copies printed and share them with their friends.
That's exactly what I meant.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah, so it's good,
Yeah. Does she go through Amazon, or does she use another method?
There's
ways as well.
I think Amazon. Then there's also another one that I can't remember what it's called, but
probably Ingram Spark, maybe.
What was that? Sorry.
There's another which I'll probably do later. A platform called Ingram Spark, and that gives you access to Booktopia. So it's another market.
Yeah.
No,
so there's lots of options, I guess.
Yeah, and I think it's a nice way to open up a voice to people who aren't inside literary circles, aren't well connected, or just have a story they want to tell in their own way and find a way through for it. I think that's very exciting, and I think it's quite beautiful. So
yeah, that's fantastic. Now, when you were talking that day, I was, as I said, eavesdropping.
Taking notes.
Not
eavesdropping. I did air quotes. No one can see that. Sorry.
Yeah.
So called eavesdropping.
I was a little bit amused. You were talking about some of the stereotypes that people think about writers. Can you tell us what are some of the things people think about writers that aren't true or that you find amusing?
One, that we don't have our own swords. That's definitely true. We do.
Of course. Every writer does.
But you're a nerdy, medieval fair-going type. Oh, actually, I am that stereotype.
Okay.
Well, I am.
Tick.
I can't remember what I said. There's so many, though.
Hang on, Ben, refer to your notes, Ben.
Yeah, I think you said something about everyone thinks that once you've published a book, you've got heaps of money. That's the one thing I remember.
Oh, that's so true.
People just think,
it's really true. I think there's a red line where people go, okay, so you're not published, or maybe even self-published, or you're published and you make as much money as Terry Pratchett used to make, for example, and that is the big untrue. Because, and especially in Australia, like if you just walked up to someone and said, oh, so how many Australian authors have you read? Just in the street, not someone who works hard to read local authors. Quite often the answer is zero. So if you think about that, in our nation, we're not reading our own authors. So the likelihood of making money in your own marketplace, in your own language, and I speak English, so imagine if it wasn't, it's such small numbers. It's so small numbers. And then, but people who are published have the same thing. People go, oh, well, you are probably really rich now because you're a published author, traditionally published, not self-published. Not necessarily. Yeah. Quite often you'll meet authors who have a day job or also do short courses or also work in literary circles and are a writer and author. It's there's a very skewed view of writing. It gets both ends, actually. Writing is going to make you wealthy and writing is a hobby. Even if you're someone who takes your craft seriously, spends all your spare minutes doing it, but it's not really work. Where it is work.
Oh, yeah, I bet it is.
And you wouldn't say that around another endeavour. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, people have a fairyland view of writers that they want to be true, and it's usually not true. Yeah. That's obviously true. We all have them.
Of course, yeah.
Rosalie, when we were planning this episode, we were planning to talk about all the great things about Writers' Week, which is part of the Adelaide Festival, but it's become pretty controversial this week. It's the event before it's even begun. Can you tell us what you know about all of this?
well, only what everyone else knows is that the schedule has changed so frequently. There's people that have been uh, there's calls for some authors to be cancelled because of anti-Ukrainian views, and then there's calls to say no, we still need to hear diverse voices or writers. I saw a headline that was something like Writers' Week shouldn't be seen as a safe space, but as a brave space. But that to me feels like you're treading on dangerous territory. Sometimes you actually, in some circumstances, with things that are happening in the world, safe is good.
Yeah,
Safe
I
is
think
an
that was
okay
actually a
thing.
quote from someone
Yeah, it
kind
might
of
be.
defending the
Yeah,
position. Yeah,
yeah. And so I think I was saying to Ben at one point, I'm not sure actually. Anyway, the books, the Writers' Week programs had all gone out to bookshops, and then bookstore owners, because I know someone who runs one, they all just got phone calls saying take the copies off the shelves. And
Really?
of the
that was
program. Yeah,
quite, yeah, it's a hard copy. And I think they've been reissued, but I think it's still, since then there's been more cancellations and rescheduling, and I
wow.
have no idea what's going on now, actually. So
I think I was reading on the weekend that because there was this thing called Breckian papers. I thought, oh, that's a cool idea. You go have Brekkie, and then there's some journalists and other people that will dissect
yeah.
the papers of the day, and even some of the newspapers are withdrawing from that event as well. So their papers aren't going to be part of the
Wow.
process. So yeah, it's. I mean, what is writing if it's not sort of controversial and provoking thought? But there is that balance to be drawn, isn't there, between having a voice about something and then, I don't want to say hate speech, but that
Well,
kind
yeah,
of language
it's
that.
not, I think it's not a fine line. I think if
Mm,
there's calls around certain, and it's not my area of expertise, so I don't want to tread on the toes of people who are defending one view over another, and not from a point of view of balance. I just don't know it well enough that I'd want to speak with any sense of authority. But I think if you're called to question on something that's leaning, even touching on the fringes of hate speech, then you're in a bad place.
yeah, true.
And have a look at what you're doing that's put you in that place.
Mm,
If you got near that, something's gone wrong. So, yeah. And Writers' Week's always been a weird one for me because I'm a genre author. And even before I published this book, I was always writing genre, sometimes some literary fiction. And Writers' Week, for me, when I look at it, it's a nope, don't know that one, nope, don't know that one. Oh, there's someone I know. And this year seems more journalist heavy than a lot of years too. So
yeah,
maybe
okay.
this is coming out in a way that's not worked for them too.
Yeah,
I mean, because there's so many authors that aren't at Writers' Week. And
yeah,
it's always going back to that thing I was talking about. It's great to have international names. It's a good way to profile it. But, I mean, that would be a great example. It would be great to see. There's a book called Dictionary of Lost Words. It's so good. And it's by a South Australian, I'm pretty sure she's South Australian author, Pip Williams. She's so good. Let's have Pip up there.
yeah,
Let's not do all of not any of the journalism stuff. It's just
yeah, that's right. Yeah. Mm,
some more local content, considering it's our Writers' Week. It's this city's Writer Week. So I
yes,
don't know.
absolutely.
It's an interesting thing.
Yeah. Now, well, speaking of this city that you and I are in, and this is our Spotlight on Adelaide episode, can you tell us what you love about Adelaide?
Oh gosh, keep asking me questions, and I don't have all the answers.
Maybe that means they're good questions, or are they bad questions?
I think one of the things I love is actually that it is a bit of an art city. They value arts. They centre it. It's not out on the fringes, even though it's called Fringe Festival. The Fringe Festival is huge, and we're really good at creating events on all sorts of scales. And I think one of the things I like about Writers SA is they have events in the city, sure, but they also have regional events. So we're really good at reaching the arms out for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's got some of the nice aspects of a country town, of a bit more quiet, a bit more relaxed, but also still has major events like Fringe Festival, Writers' Week. Too many things. It's hard to remember because the pandemic basically closed most of those things, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
they're
so
all
cute.
coming back. So,
They are. They are. Yeah. Well, we love our city. Absolutely. Yeah.
what do you like? Am I allowed to ask?
Yeah. Look, I love,
Yeah.
I love what some of the things you've said. I love that arts is at the forefront
Mm.
of Adelaide, and I just love the geography of the city itself. That we can
Oh,
just go
yeah.
in and go into the gardens, and I have got an 8-year-old son, and my wife and I will go in, the three of us, and just walk around the botanic gardens. It's free. There's
Mm.
always something new to discover.
Mm.
So we'll often do that, and then we might go and get a pizza somewhere or somewhere like that. So it's really easy to get in and out. And then once you're in there, there's lots of green spaces, and
Mm.
it's got a nice vibe, but it's not too busy, and it's not
Yeah.
hard to get into. So I love that about it, and I do love it's culturally rich as well. You can
Mm.
eat lots of different types of food and get great coffee, and yeah, I really do love Adelaide. So
Mm.
um,
I've just
I
had
think I'm here
a
to stay.
Yeah, I've just had a trip to Adelaide, and I haven't been to Adelaide for some years, and that was really obvious to me. Like particularly the street art and the beautiful art off the buildings as well. That was really, really obvious to me. So
I think that's the thing. It's not
fresh
a
eyes.
concept, yeah, and it's not a concept of art and living spaces. It's visibly there, and
Yeah.
and I totally agree too. It's got all the green spaces. If nothing else, you can catch a train in and go for a walk down the Torrens,
Mm,
and end up down. You can walk all the way down a river. Sorry, I like that it's a river city, and you
yeah.
can walk
Mm.
all the way down and end up at the Botanic Gardens and have a beautiful day out and no cost. Or you can skip that and go to the markets and spend all your money on cheese. So,
Of course, which I have done that too. Yeah.
Uh,
Oh wow.
we got our last question here for you, Rosalie.
I'll try and have an answer this time.
Okay, Rosalie, what are you proud of over your time as being an author? What are you proud of? Tell us.
That I actually had faith in myself. And that's something that publishing the book gave me the ability to realize that I felt so comfortable with that story that I could put it safely into the world.
Hmm.
It's not the sense of fear of rejection because you just go, well, it's done. And you can't test that until you do that. And you can do that through a traditional publisher, but maybe that's something that you don't have in the same way. You still have to have faith, but you know there's a rejection coming. Whereas this way, you have to go, well, I'm deciding if this is worthy. I'm putting my real name on this, I'm putting it into the world. Do I feel good about it? And I do. And that moment of, oh, I do. The thing that I created, there's a 6-year-old girl who grew up in a very not expensive part of Adelaide. So grew up with next to nothing, and I can sense her when that moment happened. I can sense her standing next to me, and I'm holding her hand and going, "We're going to get there."
Oh,
Yeah. Wow.
Rosalie, I love that. What a beautiful answer.
Oh well, there
Really,
you
really
go.
beautiful.
We had the
Yeah,
right answer for the right
Yeah.
question. But it's just
You
that,
brought it home.
yeah.
it's indescribable, and you don't know that moment is coming, and so when it comes, is earth-shatteringly wonderful. And to pair that with, while I've been doing my own journey for the story, I've also make a point of supporting, more diverse authors and more diverse voices. And when I spend money on myself for my own work, I also go out and make sure I get something that's new fiction, young author or old author, LGBTQI plus positive, or as in the author, or someone who is a woman of colour, so that I'm not just standing on my own feet, so that we're supporting the whole community of authors as well.
Mm.
And that I feel equally proud of, not more, because boy, writing a book's a beautiful thing, but bringing other people along with you and not just standing on your own feet, but helping people to stand as high. That
Love
feels
it.
good. Yeah.
Love it. That is just so
Oh,
good.
it's fantastic. Oh, what a great answer. Thank you. And look, that's a perfect way for us to wrap up our interview with you today. Thank you so much for joining us on either side of Neil, Rosalie.
Pleasure.
Good luck with the book, and I will finish it, I promise. And And
I won't ever know, so it's fine.
oh no, I'll circle back, as they say, and I'll let you know once I'm done. But
That's
no, thank you.
wonderful.
It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, and thanks for joining us.
Beautiful. Have a gorgeous day.
Oh, that was such a great chat with Rosalie. What
It
a
was
find!
excellent. Yeah,
I
good
know.
snooping, Ben. You should
Oh, look,
eavesdrop more often.
I should. Well, I do a lot, but generally I don't just approach people straight
Yeah, but
afterwards.
no, that was fantastic. And I actually had stacks more questions to ask her. So
Mm,
hopefully we can get Rosalie back on the pod, during the course of the year. Yeah, because it's really sparked my interest in, lots of other things that authors might, come across, like, whether you write under your own name or you write under a different name, and what the
yeah,
creative process is like, and where do you start? I don't know. There's just so many questions. So, but she was
yeah.
absolutely
She was
loved it.
great, yeah. And I always wonder, do authors know where writers know where the story is going to go? I imagine not. But when you read a story, it's there and it's done. But when someone's actually going through that process, do they go, oh, about this, I want all of these things to happen, and then I
Yeah.
want this big event, or does it just kind of evolve? Which is, we didn't really get to ask her
Well,
about the
she kind of
process so
touched
much,
on that
but
a little bit, though, the way that she
she
said,
did.
it all comes to her. And then that kind of got me thinking, just what you're saying now. Is there a start, a middle, and an end? And,
Mm,
book 1 through to book 30, is it a series? Is it ongoing, or does it just evolve? Yeah, so I'm reading a series at the moment. There's 15 in the series, and
oh my
I
goodness.
can't wait to get. That comes in chunks of 3,
Oh
and
yeah.
I can't wait to get the next lot. And I've already ordered them from the library. So anyway,
Wow.
I love that. That's a really good question. So maybe that we can get back to her on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Christy. So I'm just going to give you some of my fringe highlights now before we finish up for the day.
Go for it.
And I want to just unashamedly say that they're all people that I know and they're all South Australian. So I just want to plug them so they get lots of ticket sales. Is that
Good on
okay?
you. Of course, absolutely. Go for it.
Full disclosure. The first one is 6 o'clock Mick. Now, anyone who knows comedy in Adelaide or sees comedy or is in comedy, they'll know Mickey D. He's a funny, funny guy. He's a runner slash comedian, and he's hilarious. And this show is actually on in broad daylight at 6 o'clock in the
Okay.
evening
Yeah.
because it's daylight
Yeah,
savings,
of
and
course.
so it's really cool. And he gets the crowd involved, and he's just hilarious. I just love Mickey D. He's great. So that's a good one to see. Amos Gill, who's another South Australian comedian, has got a show, something about happy-ish. I can't think of the name. Should have found out before I plugged him. But anyway,
Google it.
Amos Gill. He's a pretty well-known comedian, actually, and
Okay.
he's really, really funny. While we're on the subject of comedians, Mark Ryan, also known as the Beautiful Bogan,
Yep.
he is a really beautiful man. He's a funny man. He's doing some shows regionally as well. So he goes on a bit of a tour during Fringe. So you can see him in some regional places, and he takes a few comedian friends with him. So he's always worth checking out. And the last one is Emma Knight's Productions. Emma's
Yep.
South Australian. She's a brilliant pianist, and she's a songwriter and performer, and she's fantastic. She runs a whole lot of shows, like 5 or 6 or maybe more sometimes, all over the place during Fringe. She's a very, very busy woman. One of them is the Pirates of Penzance. They do it's kind of like an outdoory type version, or they do it at different venues. It's a bit of a stalwart now. I think they've been doing it for like 10 years or 11 years or something crazy like that.
Wow.
So there's some really good ones to check out. All local artists, people that I know and I know are brilliant. So go and check them out. Get into the city, get around. There's Fringe events everywhere, and have lots of fun.
Okay. Sounds awesome, Ben. Well, as we wrap up, let's just talk about what we're going to be doing next episode.
Please, yeah.
We've got painful puns and public transport. So
They just naturally go together,
they
don't they?
surely do. I like to pun when I'm on public transport, but both can be great. But we have some cracker stories coming up. So Ben and I are both on PT at the moment, so we've got some stories to share with you
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Plus, we need to rehash The Doctor Is in the House. So
Mm.
we're putting the call out there to anyone that's got some sort of illness they want to diagnose. We'll have a doctor in the house. Mum, send us your list. But
P.S. Not a real doctor.
in brackets, yeah, no experience. But yeah, it's been another awesome episode,
So
Ben,
much fun.
and hopefully you enjoyed it. And don't forget, you can find us on Spotify and Buzzsprout. Follow us on Instagram, either side of Neil, 3418, and also we've got Facebook and also a Facebook group on either side of Neil.
Yeah, get on it. Absolutely. So much fun. And we'll see you next time, everyone.
All right. Thanks for listening. See you later.
See ya.